This is the plaintiff, Gina Drab. She says she rented some commercial space to the defendant, who opened a hair salon. And almost immediately, the cops were called due to marijuana odors emanating from the place. She filed for an eviction. The defendant trashed the place before she vacated. And she's here suing for $3,220.74 for damages, rent, and attorney's fees. This is the defendant, Ashley Packard. She says everything was fine for the first year, but a new tenant moved in upstairs. That's when the problem started. She says the plaintiff changed and started harassing her workers and her clients, so she moved out, left the sinks and chairs there because they belonged to the place, put her trash on the street, and is now being sued? Come on! She's accused of getting messy.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff rented commercial space to the defendant, who opened a hair salon, says the defendant was heavy into weed and trashed the place. But the defendant says the problems were from another tenant. It's the case of the salon that gave everyone a buzz.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
A68 LLC, represented by Ms. Drab. You're the owner?
Yes.
Okay. You're suing Ashley Packard for $3,220.74 in rent and utilities, because according to you, she violated a stipulation that the two of you had entered into and in landlord-tenant court. All right. You own a piece of property that is a salon?
Yes.
And you rented it. When did you start renting it?
In December.
So how long were you there in total?
A year and a half.
Okay. And what went wrong?
The reason we're here is because she did not meet the stipulations of the
Right. How did you end up in landlord-tenant court? What was the first thing that went wrong in this tenancy?
The rent was not paid for July and August.
Okay. So July and August of what years?
Of 2018.
18. Did you pay July and August?
No, that's because I received a notice to quit.
Okay. And were you in the middle of a lease?
Yes.
All right, so she stops paying rent, and why did you give her a notice to quit? Had you received any complaints or anything?
The reason was that she was constantly late with rent. Also, the electricity had to be paid at that time. Sometimes she would pay it at the same time, sometimes it would be later. But there were other reasons that I spoke to her, was that she brought in people to do acrylic nails. The acrylic nails were producing a very bad offensive odor, which traveled. The lady upstairs had commented on it, and I spoke with her. She said that the ones that were doing the nails were going to be bringing in a ventilation system.
That stuff never works. All right, anyway, so what was the deal with the people who you hired to do nails? Let me quote you. They were Spanish and sometimes could be a bit mouthy. But the plaintiff was the one who was being disruptive to our business. You know those Spanish people.
They are quite mouthy.
You know those Latinos. They can be a bit mouthy.
So,
okay.
yes, my girls who are working for me, or with me, I should say, because they rented their spots, they could be a little, they just stood their ground with what they knew was
okay,
right.
but what was it that what were they saying their ground
came,
about? Would she come in person and complain, or was a tenant upstairs coming down?
So Gina was trying to get a hold of me one day. I was in the middle of an updo class at another salon. So when I got out of class, I heard all these voice messages from my coworkers telling me that she came in and she was screaming at them to stop doing what they were doing, to call me. And when they told her that I was at an updo class, they said that she threw down her purse on the floor and started snooping through my drawers in my station, and she started going through the salon. They said they didn't know.
Did they video her?
They didn't video it, but this is what.
How so? And this day and age where basically everybody videos everybody all the time,
know, but
that would be priceless video.
They were in the middle of doing nails. They had clients sitting in their chairs, and it was just overall very unprofessional. And
all right. So there's no rent paid in July. There's no rent paid in August. You file a notice of eviction. You end up in landlord-tenant court. So there is a stipulation entered into that the defendant, that would be you, agrees to pay $1,665.28 no later than September 5th. Did you make that payment on September 5th?
I did, and I have the
How did
receipt.
you make the payment on September 5th?
Check. And
did you mail it, or what'd you do?
I actually drove to her house and I put the check in her mailbox.
So the picture you have is you putting the check in her mailbox?
Correct.
Okay, is that your mailbox?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and that is, the picture's dated September 5th at 10 o'clock at night. Technically, she complied, so you don't see it until September 6th, right?
Correct.
And you deposited September 6th. So that was one of the things you said she didn't comply with, but you cannot prove that she didn't comply with.
No,
that was fine.
that
all right,
was
so
not
then the next thing that she's supposed to do, the defendant agrees to remove all belongings, leave the premises broom clean, and will return any and all keys to the plaintiff upon vacating. Any items left behind will be deemed abandoned. Okay, according to you, she didn't do that. She left it a mess, correct?
Correct.
Tell me about it.
Well, there was a station that, those are some of the pictures. This is a chair that was left outside.
All right, what's this a picture of? This is all of the garbage?
That's all the garbage, which the city would not pick up that garbage. You have to make special arrangements. Being a business, they don't bother with it at all. It has to be done privately.
But she could have done that, right?
Right, I text her, say, you need to make special arrangements. Never heard from her. The city
Okay,
never heard from her.
why did you leave it all out like that? You're not allowed to leave it all out like that on the sidewalk, much less.
That's where we always put our trash.
You know, that's where you put one bag of trash on trash day and probably not even on the sidewalk. But, you know, she's going to get fined as a property owner if you do that. What's this big black thing? Well, no, you know, I mean, I'll judicialize her upon you. You know that you went to court. You know that people have a magnifying glass. They're looking at everything you do. Take this stuff with you. Take it to the dump. Why would you leave it out there and create this issue now? Because you know what the problem is. You skated on July and August rent. That was part of the stipulation. She's suing you now for July and August rent because she says you violated the stipulation. If I were you, I'd be able to lick off the floor that I left behind because I would be so afraid of what is happening now happening. July and August rent being sued for. You know, because you have this agreement that's in your favor, really.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay the attorney. You don't have to pay July or August. You don't have to do anything. All you got to do is what you're supposed to do when you leave, which is leave it really spotless. And then instead, you leave all this garbage behind because I have a right to. You don't have a right to. All right, let's see what else it was. Ugh. Okay, that's another picture of the garbage. That gives you an idea. You think that that's okay, that you can leave that on the sidewalk and it's not going to create a problem for somebody?
I do agree. I had nobody to help me move.
That's
that
a
stuff.
you problem.
I understand.
And that's why you're being sued, you see? That is a you problem. That's not a her problem. It's not a city problem. It's not a me problem. That's a you problem.
So if the deal was 2 months free rent, but only if you leave the place clean, and the place wasn't left clean when it's all over, can you sue for the landlord sue for the 2 months rent?
I guess if it's a verbal agreement, no. But if it was written, you signed it.
Why does it have to be written? Why can't it be verbal?
Agreement's agreement, written or not.
What do you say?
She didn't live up to her half of the contract, so she should be sued.
She has to pay. Going inside the courtroom.
What is this a picture of? Okay, garbage left in shampoo sinks. All right, it's a little cap of some kind of residue. Somebody else has to stick their hand in and pick up. Alcohol. You left alcohol behind? What kind of alcohol? What'd you leave behind there? Is it wine? Woodbridge? Okay. Alcohol, clutter left in back room. Okay. Nail polish in small room. All right. It's a spill.
That's where they did pedicures.
Stuff left on stair landing. What's
some of that stuff was already there when I got there.
That was never there before.
This? What is this that I'm looking at?
That's a sink that's on the landing.
Whose sink is that?
It was one that I purchased that I couldn't use.
Okay, but you understand that her property is not your personal dump site. I know it cost money and trouble to go to the dump site, but you don't get to leave your stuff behind. I mean, you had to know that judicial eyes are upon you because of this stipulation. Why would you risk this?
I guess I understand exactly what you're saying.
What's this, your sign? You didn't take it off of the window?
I didn't realize I had to.
Is it a film? What is it?
My father's friend had put it on for me, and I'm not sure how he did it.
Okay, and that's not the only thing that you left behind. You left soiled bathroom. Oh, a flush would be nice. All right. Where are you now? Are you running your business somewhere else, or did you give up?
No, I run a little studio.
What is a studio that does what?
Oh, it's Coco and Glam Studios, and we do body painting, hair and makeup.
Okay. It was so simple. So simple. All you had to do was not leave garbage behind, call your father's friend to help you take the stuff off, and we wouldn't be here. And instead, now you have a new business somewhere else and a fresh start, and now I'm about to saddle you with all of these charges, which is sad. $3,220.74. Verdict for the plaintiff. Good luck, folks.
So the plaintiff gets everything she was suing for, all $3,220, Ms. Packard. Sorry, but it's obvious you left a lot of stuff behind.
I guess I did, but, you know, when she wants to walk in and say crazy things, it just makes me not want to be the best tenant that I could possibly be. So
well, you weren't, obviously.
No.
You left a mess. Okay. Sorry about that. I hope you learned a lesson from all this.
Sure.
Think so?
Yes, I have.
Good for you. All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Ms. Drab, I think people watching can understand why you filed a lawsuit, you know?
Yes.
Feel
Thank
better
you.
now?
Yes, I do.
Good enough. Okay.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Harvey?
You know, I mean, there was something mentioned in the case, Doug, that I think is interesting, that if you're in a state where marijuana is legal, assuming you're allowed to smoke it in your own place of business, or you're even allowing other people to do it, I don't know that that's a violation of anything. It would be like a cigarette unless the lease specifically said you're not allowed to smoke cigarettes. So I'm not so sure that disqualifies the tenant.